welcome back to Furry Tales.
Yes, we are so glad that you're back with us again today, and we have a really fun episode today. Do you have any idea what we're checking out?
I do not know.
Well, we're checking out some sneaky little critters. What do you think?
Well, considering your S's were super long, maybe snakes?
Yes, you're exactly right. We're going to check out some snakes, and they're really cool. I can't wait till you meet some of them. Are you ready?
Awesome, I'm ready.
All right, we're also going to check out some other things too, but let's go do it.
Awesome.
All right. Our world is full of so many amazing creatures, and they live all around us, and we coexist with them every day. In this show, we're going to look at some of those creatures and some of the wonderful people who work with them.
This is Furry Tales.
Snakes are one of the most necessary animals on our planet, and they're pretty cool. In fact, there are over 3,600 different species of snakes in the world today, and they're on every continent in the world with the exception of Antarctica, and that's probably because of obvious reasons. It's pretty cold down there. But the problem is they're feared by humans, and they're feared by most humans more than any other animal in the world. And unfortunately, it's a learned fear. It's not a legitimate fear. So just how many snakes are there in the world? Well, the truth is nobody really knows, but there are a lot of them. In fact, there are over 3,600 different species or types of snakes out there on all the continents except for Antarctica, like we said. They say that there's one snake for every 1,000 square feet, which is pretty common if you think about it, but you don't see them scampering around like squirrels or as much as you see the birds flying around. In fact, you don't see them hardly at all out in the wild because they have chosen to be an elusive animal. Not because they're an elusive predator, it's actually because they've chosen to be elusive because they are a prey. Birds like owls, eagles, all kinds of different animals, they love to snack on the snake, and he has to hide most all of the time for that very reason. Now look at this beauty. This is a corn snake, a red corn snake to be exact, and he is gorgeous. Now, a couple things about him. Number one, he's a little bit elusive. He's very common around the southeast area, but you're not gonna see him much because he likes to come out at night, and he likes to find rat and mice burrows, and that's his favorite prey. But a big thing is he gets his name, the corn snake, because if you look at his belly, well, it looks just like Indian corn, which is cool. He's very, very pretty. So one big misconception for these guys is that they're oftentimes mistaken as a copperhead, and you can see the similarities there. However, the color's much different. Copperheads, for example, look like a copper penny. That's their color. But another thing that you could look at is their head. He does not have that triangular head that a copperhead has. And venomous snakes have elliptical eyeballs, and he has perfectly round pupils. No non-venomous snakes have elliptical eyeballs, only round pupils just like him. So here's a fact about the snake. Contrary to what you may think, they don't just have those two fangs in the front of their mouth that you see when they open up and they're gonna strike. And that's what we think about when we think of snakes. But they actually have a mouth full of teeth. Ask anybody who's ever been bitten by one. They'll attest to the fact that they have a lot more teeth than just those two fangs. They have those small teeth in their mouth that are rounded and curved backwards. That's how they hold their prey when they do attack. So one cool thing about snakes in the United States, all snakes that is that they're ectothermic. And that means that whatever the temperature is in their environment, that's exactly what temperature their body is as well. So therefore, when it gets too cold outside, they have to brumate, which is very similar to what hibernation is. And a cool fact about them when they're brumating is that they can't eat, but they do wake up to go to the bathroom or to get some water. But if they ate, it would kill them. So therefore they have to not eat throughout the entire winter season. Pretty cool. check her out. She's beautiful. This is the eastern box turtle, and she's gorgeous. Her carapace on top here, which is the shell, has this beautiful color, and they can be multiple colors, not just yellow. But that design is unique to her and her alone. There won't be another box turtle with that color and design exactly like her. Just like our fingerprint, they're unique. Now, her plastron is the bottom, and you can tell that they're female if they're flat, like she is. A male would have a scoop right about here in the middle. But if you look at her real close, the reason she's here at Reflection Riding, getting to live out her best years, is because, well, she got hit by a lawnmower, and she's missing that foot right there. And it also cracked her plastron right here, and she's not able to retract in for her protection fully. So she wouldn't survive in the wild like most box turtles will. Another fun fact about these box turtles, here in Tennessee, which is where we are, they're the only turtle that can completely retract and enclose itself in its shell. Pretty cool fact. Now, you're gonna find these guys a lot of times in the dense forest, close to water sources, because that's where they like to live. And they can live a long time. They can actually live 25 to 35 years, which is pretty good. Now, even though these box turtles are pretty common, they are considered to be possibly at risk eventually because they're being illegally traded for pet use, actually, of all things. So they're good to have around, good insect control. Now, if you ever see a turtle in the road, which we do often, make sure you stop so it doesn't get ran over. But it's important that when you pick them up, you don't just put them back on the side of the road. You've got to take them to the direction they were going, because it does you no good to set it off on the side of the road. It's just going to turn around and go back where it was going anyhow. So help them out, get them to the other side of the road, that way they can be safe. Now, one of the things that box turtles do is they do brumate, which is, like we talked earlier, similar to hibernation, but in reptiles it's brumation. And she wouldn't be able to do that because those claws that they have, really sharp. She's really letting me have them too right now. She can't do it because she's missing that foot, so she doesn't have all the claws to help her dig in for them to brumate, which is what they do. They like to dig and burrow for their brumation period. Hey girl. All right, I'm gonna put her down because she does not like me handling her. So another common snake that's pretty much everywhere is this rat snake. Some people actually call him a chicken snake, and that's because they like to eat eggs. So they do get in hen houses and eat those chicken eggs from time to time, and bird eggs, things like that. But what makes these guys cool is that they are excellent pest control for you. You do not ever want to do away with one of these guys if you see one of them around your house. And the reason is they love rodents, and they will keep your rodents pretty much away as long as they cross his path. He's pretty good. Now this one right here, you can't tell right now because he's really wrapped around my arm, but he's 7 feet long. They can get big, which is what makes a lot of people intimidated and afraid of them. But don't be afraid, these things are great to have. Now, what they like to do in the morning time is they like to climb trees. They're excellent climbers. They'll spread out across a branch, or they'll spread out across your windowsill, and what they're doing there is they're actually warming up. That's the first thing that they do in the morning, is get warmed up so that they can move around. Because remember, they're ectothermic, which means whatever environment they're in, that's the same temperature that their bodies are as well. He's beautiful, look at him. He's actually got some color. You can't really tell from this distance, but he's got a lot of red in him, and it looks really cool. But this is him, the rat snake. Good friend to have around. So I remember as I was growing up that my grandpa, my papa, he always warned me to watch out for high grass and not to walk through high grass because that's where snakes like to live. Well, it turns out my papa was right. That's exactly where snakes like to be. They love to hide and they love to be inconspicuous. So, if you're ever walking in a field or you're gonna go through high grass, be very aware and very alert. They won't chase you down, but they don't like it when they're stepped on, and you gotta be aware where you're stepping. Learning about these snakes has been incredible. What amazing animals they are, and they're so important to the environment as we're learning. Well, I got a call again today from my good buddy Dr. Woods, who is an exotic expert, one of the best I know, and he's a lead vet here at Ottawa Veterinary Hospital. Well, he called me and said he's got a huge python coming in today, and he's invited us to check it out. So let's go check it out. Hey Danielle.
Hey.
It's so good to see you again.
Too.
And Dr. Woods called and said that you guys had a albino granite Burmese python here.
Yes, and he's nearly 40 pounds.
Oh my goodness, that is huge.
Yes.
All right, I want to meet him.
Absolutely.
All right, show me the way.
Let's do it.
Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm a reptile keeper and enthusiast. I do lots of rescues. Snakes are my passion, and right now I have over 20 of them.
Rachel, this guy's awesome. He's incredible. He's huge. But he's
huge.
not full grown, right?
Not yet.
Okay, so Dr. Woods, tell me, he's about 40 pounds now.
Yeah, so he's about 40 pounds, probably 12 to 14 feet.
Okay.
You know, he may get anywhere a little bit longer than 14 to 18-ish or so. They are one of the more girthy snake sets out there, so he's could easily get to 60 to 65 pounds, if not more than that.
Yeah, speaking of that girth, it's similar to when they're full grown, they can be like a telephone pole, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's a big snake.
And they can weigh up 200 pounds.
Correct.
Man, just massive. So he seems pretty good temperament. Is he a good pet?
He is. He's awesome. He's made a lot of improvement.
So when you first got him, you had to rescue him, right?
I did.
So tell us a little bit about that. He was in a very bad situation, right?
He was in a very bad situation. The people that had him did not know how to properly care for him. He was living outside.
Oh, okay.
Outside in a plywood shipping crate.
What time of year was that?
Winter.
In the winter, okay.
With no heat.
With a space heater running in there.
Oh, that's awful.
He was covered in tree sap and mites. He was dehydrated, emaciated. He was in really rough shape.
And you got him, and so you rehabilitated him. Walk us through that. How did you get him looking like this? He's perfect. Obviously, Dr. Woods is a part of that story.
Yes, Dr. Woods
Small
is a big
portions.
part.
Yeah.
Some people that I know came together and donated their time and their money and their efforts to have a really big 8-foot by 3-foot enclosure made
nice.
for him.
Okay.
And some vet visits and some love, some care.
So what did you figure out when he first came in?
You know, one of the biggest things that she had to tackle was what was on the outside of him. He was, like she said, covered in tree sap. They just chucked a chunk of wood in there for him to rub up against, I guess. The more important thing that wood brought, though, was mites. When she found him, he was, this is a gorgeous yellow and white snake.
Oh, yeah.
Black mites covering all over this guy, all over. And so she had to do a lot of work to get rid of those mites.
So it's so important when you get something like this, you have to know what you're doing.
Yeah, well, just like those iguanas that you saw, this cute little snake can, go for not very much money, small at a show, and people will get that small baby Burmese python and not really think about this isn't even the end result. It will be bigger than that, and so they are a great pet in the right environment, and the right person.
Yeah, absolutely. You've done a great job, Rachel.
Thank you so much.
He looks so good. People like you are what makes a difference in the world, really. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this guy is super strong. I can
Strong
feel
and
it, like,
heavy, I know,
yeah,
I
man.
can feel that way.
I mean, he's wrapping my arms so tight there. He's heavy, like you said.
He
He's not
is.
full grown. So these guys, what do they eat?
So, so this is a Burmese python. Burmese python's one of the larger species of pythons that are out there. Not the longest, that would be the reticulated python.
Okay.
But he's gonna, full grown, this thing's gonna probably right now it's feeding on, if not multiple large rats. It can feed on rabbits as well. So pretty big food out there.
Yeah, okay. And so really cool fact, they don't have jaws like you and I do. So they actually like a ligament in their mouth and they can open them up just so big.
They
swallow those
can
guys, right?
like dislocate their jaws, so they can pretty much anything about the size around that they are, they can actually take down.
Really?
Yep, and the most important thing that helps them take it down is not just opening their mouth, it's all of these muscles. After they've eaten, they oftentimes will hold their heads up and they make their body go in an S pattern, and that muscle helps them push that food down into their stomach.
Incredible. How often do they have to eat?
Well, so that comes off of how much an owner feeds, but in the wild it comes down to how often it can come across prey that it can capture, or does it just find something that's dead that it eats?
Right. Oh, okay. So it doesn't always have to eat live. And
It may eat something that's dead if there's a caiman that's come across and tracked down like a small deer or something, something of that nature, and it couldn't eat it all. It may come over there or battle that animal for that food.
Gotcha.
So,
now these guys are native to Asian countries.
correct. Yes, sir.
So if we got them over here, it's not because they're native.
No, so you can tell, so this is definitely not something you'd see in the wild. This color pattern, it's not only an abnormal color pattern for a Burmese python, he's what's called an albino granite Burmese python, and that's because you can't even see any of the Burmese python pattern that's on here, and it's yellow. Obviously in the wild, this would stick out as a baby as a sore thumb and would be eaten. So this is a captive bred snake for these different color patterns.
Gotcha. Now, if we see them out in the wild, it's because somebody just couldn't take care of them.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest problems down in the Florida Everglades. They actually have python hunts nowadays, where there have been a lot of Burmese pythons and other pythons released into an environment where they're the apex predator. Nothing will eat this out in the Florida Everglades.
Not even a gator?
Not even a gator at certain sizes. But if this were a female, she can have a clutch of 40 to 60 eggs.
Oh my.
So you think about that perfect apex predator in an environment where nothing can kill it. As an adult, it will start wreaking havoc in that environment it's not from.
Wow, that's incredible. Beautiful, beautiful snake.
It is.
And I think if we left them alone where they're supposed to be, they'd be doing what they're supposed to do.
Yep, or in the hands of the right person who wants to take care of them.
Exactly, so important.
Definitely.
Oh, check this girl out. She's climbing just like what lizards do, I guess.
Yep.
She's beautiful. Now this is a leopard gecko, right?
Yeah, it's an adult female.
And she's full grown, it's as big as she's gonna get. And she's gorgeous, I mean, check her out. Now, let's just start with that tail. That is a unique tail. It's real fat and plump. Doesn't look normal. So tell me about that. That's a healthy tail.
It is. So you can always tell a leopard gecko's health, primarily because that's a fat storage device. So the big old fat plump tails let you know that they've been eating well. They've got good fat stores. When you start seeing skinny ones, you wonder about their nutrition.
Right, so now there is such a thing as too fat, right?
Correct.
Okay.
You know, just like in the human world, any creature out there can be overfed, and obesity and underweight is a fine line that the owner's got to manage.
Right, so their tail, hers is just right.
It is. It looks great.
Okay, so now she's got some big ears. They're just holes. They're not really ears, but I can see right through her and see the light on the other side of her head.
Yeah, a lot of reptiles have, they've got ear holes, if you will. They're rudimentary ear canals, and they've got a tympanic membrane that if you look just right, it's almost like you can't see straight on through them.
That's amazing. Beautiful. Okay, now she likes to eat insects.
Yep, naturally from the mountains of Afghanistan. She will eat any kind of insect that she can find at night, being a nocturnal creature.
Awesome. Okay, so she's nocturnal, which is unique for her. So that I would imagine, because what you see a lot of times are reptiles and lizards liking to lay out on those logs and soak up the sun. But if she's nocturnal, that's not the case.
Yeah, so different requirements. All of our reptiles have different needs, and that's the most important, is teaching an owner and an owner educating themselves on what they need. She being nocturnal, unlike other reptiles that need to have a UVA and UVB heat source to help adequately cause nutritional metabolization, she really just needs a source of heat, because all day long in the mountains of Afghanistan, she's in a hole. So she's a slightly easier reptile because we don't have to have all those lighting requirements necessarily.
So, very cool, by the way. Now, I'm holding her, and she does not feel scaly like most lizards do. In fact, she's pretty smooth other than these bumps.
Yup, she's more of like a skinned reptile, or a scaleless reptile, if you will. So she does, it's kind of like a very thin skin.
Yeah, there's no scales. I mean, she's gorgeous. Now, lizards can, for the most part, lose their tails as a defense mechanism, and most of them don't grow them back, per se.
Correct.
Now, she's unique in that as well, right?
Yeah, a lot of our gecko species can regrow their tail. So in juvenilehood, when she's little, if she gets threatened, she'll drop that tail right about the base, and that thing will fall off. But what will regrow will not be all nice and ridged. It won't have all these nice bumps or colors. It'll look just kind of like a pink flesh round, almost like it's part of your finger just attached to her. But she can regrow her tail.
Very cool. Okay, so now has her skin got capabilities such as soaking in water or anything like that? Or?
So I generally don't tell a lot of owners to soak these guys because they don't need it as much, being a desert creature. But what we do want is adequate humidity. So in her cage, we definitely want to make sure we have a hive that you can put some moss in there and you spray down, keep it nice and humid, so there's a humidity chamber, if you will, to help her shed.
Gotcha. And she can absorb it in her skin.
Yep.
Okay, very, very cool. She's beautiful. And now she's got elliptical eyes.
Yep, like all of our reptiles, she's got pupils that are kind of in ellipse fashion. And of course, right now, if you look real close, hers are probably almost virtually totally closed as it's bright in here.
Oh, so she's squinting.
Yep, she's basically squinting, though her eyes are totally open.
Very cool. She's awesome.
She is a lot of fun. Great pet.
Yeah, and thanks for letting us come in and meet her today.
Of course.
The leopard gecko is a pretty cool lizard. He's really cool. In fact, his most special part is his tail. He uses it to hunt. He uses it to get a mate. He just uses it to store fat. Well, there's another lizard who has a really cool tail, and it's a big one, and that's the iguana. Check out this guy. She's beautiful, isn't she, Dr. Wood?
She is. This is Bella.
All right, and Bella's a green iguana, right?
Yep, she sure is.
All right, she's huge.
She is huge.
So tell me about her.
So, you know, one of the biggest things is people walk through a lot of pet stores and see these cute little green iguanas. The downside is that Bella here I've been caring for 8 years. And she started out tiny with her owner.
Tiny, how tiny?
Tiny as in from mouth to their rectum. She was about 6-7 inches long.
Okay, which is about the top of the tail, right?
Yep, top of the tail area.
So usually you see those size iguanas at pet stores, like on the big box store.
You sure do.
And it's probably not a good idea to get one.
I think what people need to do is educate and make sure that they're committed to what they're about to purchase. Her owner has made a commitment.
Yeah.
And we're only at 8 years out of 15 to 25.
Yeah, so how big can these green iguanas get?
So the females are a little bit smaller than males. She has a much more narrow head. We'll pull out a boy here in a little while. It's not quite as tall, but she's gonna get a little bit bulkier, not necessarily much longer. She's getting towards the peak of her size, if you will. From here, she can just get obese.
Yeah, okay, so she's about as long as she's gonna get, but she can get fatter.
Correct.
Right. Just like the rest of us.
Yep.
So, now she's got this flap.
Yeah, her
hanging down.
dewlap right here.
Okay, tell us what that dewlap is.
So a dewlap, you know, a lot of times it's used for making themselves look bigger. Males will use it to either attract females or warn off other males or challenging males for females. But it's all about defense mechanisms most commonly.
Right, so what she's doing right now, if you see her moving, she's posturing herself because iguanas like to be as high as possible.
They do.
Right? And so naturally, she's doing what she naturally does.
Trying to get to the highest point in here in this room.
Very cool. Now, cool things about iguanas is they absorb moisture through their skin.
They do.
And what's the purpose of that?
Well, so a lot of evolutionary, if you think about it, puddles harbor parasites, bacteria, so probably not the freshest of water. And so they like to drink fresh flowing water. Reptiles can't always consume enough water to have adequate shedding. And so Bella's owner gives her a good soak in a full-size bathtub pretty regularly to allow that skin to absorb not only water, but also to make things soggy so when it comes time to shed, she has full sheds.
So they shed just like snakes?
They sure do.
Okay, how often?
It's all based off of rate of growth.
Right.
Juveniles shed more frequently than adults because they're growing a lot faster.
Right. So interesting fact is that iguanas that are in captivity, one of the biggest problems they have is that they're actually not fed enough and they're malnourished.
Correct.
So what's the good practice on that?
Ideally, so as herbivores, they eat plant matter, which makes life really great as big lizards. They'll eat some insects when they're smaller, but you can imagine there's not enough insects in a day to fill this lizard. So, you know, fresh greens are the most important thing. There's also different extruded pelleted diets that are out there that can be fed as well. Ideally, feeding a little bit every single day. Bella, you being complicated, come here, little nugget.
All right, just keep going with it.
So they need fresh greens daily with calcium and D3 supplementation. Metabolic bone disease is one of the largest processes that without calcium can hit up any reptile. So these owners have to be educated on what a nutritional diet is.
Yeah, so they eat a lot of dark leafy greens like turnips and things like that. So check him out right now. What he's doing is called posturing. He's got that dewlap stuck out there. He's got those cheeks puffed out, and now he's standing up on those legs, making himself look bigger than he actually is. He does that for 2 reasons. One is, well, he's trying to look good for the ladies, and he's trying to attract a mate. But the other reason is, if he feels like he's intimidated, or he's trying to flex out, if somebody's in his territory, he'll make himself look like this to get them to stay away from him. What a beautiful, magnificent creature he is. Check him out. He's awesome. Look at him. Now look at this guy. He's really big compared to that girl, right?
Isn't he?
Now he's still a green iguana.
He is.
Different color.
Yep.
Explain that. They can change colors, right?
They can. So a lot of reptiles have chromatophores, cells that can change color. So no, not like a chameleon can change real well. But our iguanas can have slight color changes as well. If I brought Bella back out here, she'd probably turn black because she wouldn't be happy to see him.
Right, yeah, because they're breeding and all that
Correct.
stuff. She's not a huge fan of that.
Nailed it.
Okay, so now he has got a much bigger, I want to say cheeks because they're right here, but they're not cheeks. Just fatty pockets?
Yeah, so they're jowls, cheeks, whichever you like to call them. They're fat storages, and that's where these males will build up lots of fat to look more threatening to other males, more dominant. And his dewlap, you'll see, is much larger than Bella's as well. Again, to throw more threatening offenses towards others, if you will.
Right. Now, by chance, does he use that dewlap to attract a mate as well?
Yep, they can use them. The bigger the dewlap, the bigger the jowls, the longer the creature's probably been around. That's the male that the female wants to pick. It's
gotcha.
lived the longest. It's the biggest. Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, gotcha. And he likes to pretend to be bigger than he is.
He does.
So, from what I understand, they'll suck in air, and make themselves look big. It's not muscles that they're flexing. It's actually just puffing up with air.
You nailed it. They'll blow up that chest.
Yeah, and they'll get up on those legs, and pretty cool. Pretty cool. What an amazing lizard.
It is.
So, because he's a lizard and a reptile, he's able to, if he's in a threatening situation, he could lose some of this tail if he needed to, right?
Yeah, it's much more common in juveniles and babies than adults. That's when they really use that as a defense mechanism to eat my wiggling tail while I run away.
Yeah. Truth of the matter is, nothing's probably going to mess with this guy because he's big, so he's probably good to go.
You nailed it. He'll get up a tree faster than something might be able to eat him as well. So they're pretty quick.
Yeah, they got big old talons, or claws, whatever you want to call them there. They're just big. Amazing. You're gorgeous, man. You really are. All right. Anything else?
No, I think that's about it.
Cool. Thank you. Weren't those iguanas awesome?
Yes, they were awesome.
Did you know, though, that they can change colors?
What?
Yeah,
Change colors?
They sure do. They change colors. And there's another lizard that can change colors. Do you know who it is?
I do know this one.
What
It's
is-
the chameleon.
You're exactly right. It's the chameleon. And it sounds like you know what you're talking about.
I
so
do.
Why don't you tell us some more?
I sure will. Iguanas are not the only animals that can change colors. Also, the chameleon can change colors, not only to ward off their predators, but also the main reason is to communicate with each other. Another interesting thing about the chameleon is their eyeballs. Their eyeballs can literally rotate around their heads and move in different directions so that they can look at two different things at the exact same time. Other lizards have 4 or 5 fingers that they can move around like fingers, just like us. But the chameleon has opposing fingers, kind of like this, that they use like salad prongs, and it helps them hold things and maintain their balance of their body. Chameleons are my absolute favorite lizard because they're the most magical. Not only can they change colors, they have a lightning fast tongue that can capture their prey, and it extends to 2.5 times their body length. Wow! Wow, we saw some super incredible animals today.
We sure did. Weren't those snakes awesome?
They were so awesome.
They really, really were. And they're also very important to our environment. Please remember that if you see those guys crawling around your house on the outside, that they're doing you a favor. They're actually very helpful to have around.
You're exactly right. So we just want to thank you so much for watching us here on Furry Tales today.
Yes, we're so grateful. And we want you to visit our website, furrytalesshow.com. That's Furry Tales, Tales, show.com. You can also follow us on Facebook. Either way, you can reach out to us. Facebook's Furry Tales Show. And we'll try to look at your messages and get back to you.
Yes. Thank you.
See you next
Bye.
time.